was just waiting. I'll do that. I'm gonna ask for people's advice. There you go. Be alive. It might be a while for some people to show up, but it's okay. Because I don't mind. Because all that matters is in my heart or whatever. We're just waiting for people.
Here's the thing with horror games. Whenever it gets overly difficult and frustrating, it's no longer scary. It's then annoying. Like dying over and over and over and over.
I mean. Subscribe. What does this mean? I think it's been a minute longer. We'll wait for that minute and then I'll be asking some questions. Obviously not, but
For that guy though, that's in the chest from the crowds. That's his streamer that he's on.
She's already let them out. She did? And I got again? She didn't party or what? Huh?
Is it actually a mythic harpoon gun that you found? I didn't find a mythic harpoon gun.
Yes,
My Minecraft video was the same as my Fortnite. Except I just wood.
Hey, go party. Go party.
I'm big on honesty.
Go party,
I don't know, I got some movement.
What was your username, Jaden? already got a big pot. No way you take that. You're at 50 to 100. It's hope. But yeah, you do what you want to do, Matthew. You gotta experiment, bro. To do what I'm doing, but not everybody can handle that. You gotta have a really good efficiency. You want to stream 2K? Nice. That guy tunes into your streams still? But you don't stream, Mr. Krabs. I've never seen that many of your streams, though. Oh, you stream about
I'm
something
gonna get
else.
loud.
What's your plan? Oh, no controller. The last three streams you tuned in? Interesting. I never saw them. If you guys want me to add you, gotta be subscribed, get in the chat.
World War II.
Yeah, I'm on my way. Matt, the only people that are interested in this. You can do a few different things. You can play the game Fortnite. If you're just like sitting there talking, like, you don't need to have virtual, you need to have watch it.
Yeah, I just got a musical program too. It's not any much special. It's just serious.
We are just waiting. Okay, since nobody's gonna show up, might as well talk about it. Don't expect much because it's my first year wrestling. But it all started back in October, or start of it, right? I noticed that there was a like a flyer for wrestling, and I was just pretty interested in it at the time, and I was like, oh wow, look at that, a wrestling flyer. Really interested in that, so might as well sign up, right? And so when the time came, right, because it was on a Wednesday where the tryouts were there was only a small amount of people, right? I mean, pretty decent size for, I guess, if you're a wrestler, since many people don't like it since they think it's gay or they don't want to get injured as much. But there's a good amount. There's like 12 of us there, 12, 15, or 16. I forgot. But when the day came, right, I was just super excited, ready to get into like the sport. I was about to give it my all, but then the coach was said, "Hey, practice not today. Practice is going to be like Mondays and Thursdays. Let's just say from 4 to 5." So I was pretty bummed out that I couldn't, practice right then and there. I wanted to practice. I already want to get rolling, right? Because it's my first year. I wanted experience and whatever. But yeah. So when the time for actual practice came, I was super excited, right? I didn't know about like the really hard practices that they were gonna have, right? I was just thinking, hey, it's just like middle school where practices are easy. They're gonna take it easy. It's not gonna be that bad, right? How foolish I was. How foolish I was. So this is where my night of terror began. So as soon as I stepped into the wrestling room, right, with my father, because he was there with me and he wanted to see me for the first time of wrestling. He wanted to see how my practice would go, right? And I could really appreciate that. I didn't think I was going to embarrass myself, right? Because I thought, hey, it's just like middle school, right? How hard is it gonna be? But as soon as I got in, the heat hit me, and oh my goodness, was it terrible! It was winter time, by the way, like 30 something degrees outside, but when you stepped into that resting room, it felt like it was 100 degrees. I'm not even joking. And the only reason why it felt like that was because there was four main heaters, one on the corner, 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 and corner. Right, and they were just blasting all over the place. And if you step in front of them, oh my goodness, it felt like it as if the sun was freaking hitting your face. Right? But so when I stepped in there, I was like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be a terrible practice. One terrible practice because at my school we never had wrestling. We only had basketball, soccer, football, and baseball. We were gonna introduce wrestling, but then my um principal, which of whom I don't really like that much because she was out for everybody. So it was like, you know what? No, we're not gonna have wrestling. We don't want to, get everybody injured. I mean, I respect that, but like every other middle school in our district was, doing it. I'm like, all right. I guess, right? Anyways, so I was like, crap. I am very not prepared for this. I only brought four water bottles. And at the time, you might be thinking, right? Four water bottles is enough. No, no, bro. No, bro. That is not it. That is not the way. You need at least two cold water bottles and two regular ones, right? Because you're not gonna survive with just four uncold water bottles. But anyways, so I was there. I met my coaches. I won't say their names since I didn't ask their permission to say their names. But they're amazing coaches. I have to give them that. Were they tough on me because I was new and I was like scared to shoot? Yeah, but that's just like the point of learning. Anyway, so when I was there, right, I was like pretty scared because it was my first time. I didn't know how it was gonna be like when I'm wrestling the other people. But it turned out right. I had to go against a 145er. And at the time, I was like 130. It was a 15-pound difference. And most of you people are gonna be like, oh, 15 pounds isn't not much of a difference. Well, let me tell you something. When you have to deadlift a 145 pounder from the floor and you have to carry him and then dump him, it's it's not a fun experience, right? Trust me, it's not a fun experience. And all he had to do to me was, lay on top of me because um, my boy was pretty heavy. I'm not gonna lie. So that's why I decided right early on I was gonna quit weight. That was also a terrible move, right? But I don't regret it because now I weigh around 120, 118 because of wrestling, right? Huge difference. Um, so when I was wrestling him, he was my partner for a very long time, for like the half of the season, until my coaches were like, "Okay, so this is completely unfair. You now weigh like 126 before I turned like 120, and he's like double your weight, so you know, might as well switch you, right?" So I was like, "Yeah, of course you can switch me," but I didn't know they were gonna switch me to a junior, right? A junior, third year, pretty good. He weighs less than me, which I thought was an advantage, right? I was terribly wrong. I was terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. Um, he ended up like whipping the heck out of me, even though the coaches were like, "Yeah, you better win. He weighs less than you. He's not even that good." What you mean he's not even that good? Anyways, but yeah, since it was my first year, he was like, how do I say this? really, 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 really motivating me. And I was getting really, really, really tired fast because how do I say this? Because we were just moving nonstop. Our like first practice right then and there, it was just continuous live. We were doing lives all over the place. We were just continuing to shoot. If we got taken down and pinned, oh well, gotta get back up. Gotta get back up. If you got a bloody nose, get a tissue, put it in your nostril, and call it a day, and then you go back to wrestling. So I was like, oh my goodness, and I was getting so tired, right? And so after we did all of that, right? After we did all that, after you like took care of your injuries and all that, you continued to practice, right? And this hit me the most. This always got me every single practice, even when I got used to the even when I got used to the practices and whatever. It was always after practice we had to do we had to do 10 sprints, possibly even more if we like messed up and everything, but we had to do 10 sprints. And I was like, and and so um frick, I lost my train of thought. So anyways, so when that happened, right, I was like, we had to run 10 laps. We had to run 10 laps. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, right? They weren't kidding. So they're like, all right, guys, on the line now and get to sprinting. Let me tell you, right? It was like the most horrendous thing I've ever done in my entire life. I was never tired like that until that day, till that horrid day, right? So the way they motivated me, right, was if you guys don't finish these sprints, we're gonna do like 10 more, 30 more, 1,000 more. And I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, oh heck no, I am not doing that, all right? So that really motivated me to like finish at least not last, but not first. Since if you finish first, right, you're gonna stand out and like they're gonna pick on you. Since you seem like you have a lot of energy, right? You don't want to seem that you don't want to look like you have a lot of energy, since that can give have you have a at a disadvantage, and that can cause you serious trouble. So yeah, I was like always third to last. Was I proud of that? No, I was not proud of that. I actually deeply regret it. I should have pushed myself harder. But hey, um, but yeah, after all that, right? My father was like, "So, how was your first day of practice, or how did you like it?" Right? And I just looked at him dead in the eye. I just said, "I am super tired, and I don't know how you guys hanged out, like survived when it was your first year. I am super tired, right?" And my dad, being the great man he was like, he laughed, right? He laughed. He's like, we all just start somewhere. Well, I'll start somewhere at one point, right? Make me motivated. Anyways, so the second day of practice, just like the same, but more tiring since we were beginning to get introduced to more things and so on until the first tournament. And this is my only win that I had because it was a JV tournament. So don't get mad at me. To specify something, I was only in varsity since we didn't have a JV team, or we didn't have enough for a JV team. I was just in varsity. So this was the only JV match I would ever had for my first year of wrestling. Right? So um so when the first tournament came around, I was super hyped, right? I was super hyped. I was getting ready. I mentally prepared myself, and that came in clutch. That came in clutch. So when we got there, right, everybody was super excited. There was a aggressive, aura going around, and I had to say aura, like not in that type of way where it's like brain rotted, but like the definition of aura, it's like the feeling that you have, or the feeling that's like getting like presented in the room. The aura in the room was how do I say this? It was aggressive. It was not friendly at all, right? There was gonna be bloodshed, right? So that really actually scared not me, but another freshman of mine. It scared him pretty bad. He didn't know what to do. I mean, I don't blame him. It's also his first time wrestling. But anyways, first match happens, right? And I go against a guy from um, the Pioneers, Mount Whitney High School. And I heard from my teammates, right? Like, they're hecka good. And they're known to be good. They're pretty tough and whatever. I was like, dude, I don't care. It's a Mount Whitney kid. They're going to be wrestling the same moves we wrestled, right? So I just ignored all of them, and I just got into my train of thought. My um my mentally, I wasn't mentally prepared, right? Or I know I was mentally prepared. Um, and I was just thinking, right? I was just thinking. Um, they insulted my family members, or they're Germans from the 1940s. No disrespect to the Germans, by the way. That was just the way I got myself into prepared, right? But anyways, that's what I was thinking when it was my time, and when my bout came up, I ran out in the mat, super pumped. I jumped up and down, and then I told them my name, and they got me signed in, and I was green. Um, I was green. I was the ankle green. So um, so when he came, right, I was just looking at him dead in the eye, and he gave me strange looks too. Because I was staring him down, right. I was just thinking, oh man, I'm gonna tear this kid apart. I'm gonna hurt this kid, right. I don't regret that either. So when the ref blew his whistle, he backed off, and right, he was the one who backed off first. He backed off, and he started circling me. He had inside control. So at that moment, I was like, dude, you're gonna just back off, right? So then I took the offensive. I tied up with him, and I started pushing him. And I guess he thought like I was using too much momentum at the time, so he tried to snap me down, which obviously didn't work because I was like, I had my hand like this, and I was like pushing him like this, head tied, um, hand on his like thing right here, and I was just pushing against it. So when he tried to club, right, it didn't work so well. And after he clubbed and everything, he tried to do a double leg, and this is like the most weirdest part. I sprawled, right, like how everybody would do in that situation, right? But I somehow was like, like spinning on top of him, and I was like, um, ref, what do I do, ref? Anyways, and so yeah, we were like, he was how do I say this? He was like gliding like ice, and I was just on top of him, gliding with him, right? And then we did like a little spin out, and then it took him a second to realize that I was on top of him, and it also took me a second to realize I was on top of him. So I had a quicker reaction, and I got up and spread my legs out, right, for a makeshift sprawl, and then he reshot, but didn't get it, obviously, since I resprawled. And I just remember hearing my coaches, they're like, push his head down, push his head down. But but I had trouble because like his head was already down to begin with, right? And I don't know how to like push it down any further without hurting the poor man. I mean, I didn't want to hurt him, but like not seriously hurt him, where it leaves him disabled for something. I don't want to break his neck or anything. But I still had to end up pushing his head down because I had to bypass him. So after I pushed his head down, he went onto all fours, and I was on his chin and his arm. I snapped him down, and then I spun behind, got behind him, got my 3 points, right? And I think at that point, the guy was just like, I think he quit. That's basically it. I think he quit because I was already behind him and he didn't know many moves. And the reason why I say that is because as soon as I got my arm underneath his armpit to try to drive a half, he just like completely flopped. I don't know if he was trying to stop me or anything, but like he just completely flopped on the ground, and I was like, all right, dude, free win. So, anyways, after that, right, I get my half, and it was like the most easy half I've ever gotten in my entire life. Most easiest. And obviously I got a win by pin. And that was the only win I ever gotten. Yes. My varsity experience, I'm gonna say, was not that good. So then second match comes, right, and then and I didn't have time to fully prepare myself, right. I only got time to loosen up my body. So I ended up losing that round, and I ended up losing the third round too because of the same reason. Well, not the same reason, but it's because my left leg, for some reason, it was always out forward, like a lot. It was like this, and every time it was, they just took their opportunity to single leg. I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up learning that like 2 tournaments later. Like, hey, don't put your foot out that much, or else you're gonna take you down. Um, just like that, right? I was like, all right, okay, right. So then second tournament comes around, right, and I'm like thinking, so I okay. First of all, let me just say this right there here. I didn't know that it was just varsity. I thought it was another JV tournament until they told us at the um we got there to weigh in. They just said, this is a varsity wrestling tournament in case if anyone was wondering. And I was like, oh crap, this is a varsity tournament. What am I supposed to do? Right? Because I'm sure many of us, right? Many schools have many wrestling uh, kids, right? And they have their separate JV and varsity teams, right? But we didn't have that option. We just had only varsity. That was the only JV tournament, like how I mentioned before, a couple minutes ago. But I didn't know that until the second tournament, and I was like, "Oh crap, we're in varsity. This isn't JV. This isn't something like I regularly do on a regular basis, right?" So I was just like, "Oh my goodness, there's no way, right? There's no way I win this." And with that mentality, right, which I deeply regret having, I ended up losing 0-2, which was really embarrassing because my coaches had high spirits since I won, at least a match at the JV tournament. But it was really embarrassing. Just know. And remember how I said that there was 16 people at the start of practice, or 16 people at the start of the wrestling dang it, wrestling season? Well, that number dropped significantly to the point where, like, it didn't even look like we had a team. There was only me. There was only like 8 people. Only 8 people on the team, right? So the wrestling room was super, super empty. We used to have 16, and as soon as the first tournament was over, we like completely disappeared. I don't know why. Like everybody just left, and that deeply hurt because like we didn't have a team anymore. But my coaches were like, "Hey, we're not just gonna give up, right? We are gonna continue this. We're gonna continue as a team." and so on, right? So that got me really pumped up, even though like almost half of our team was gone at that point, right? Because like But anyways, back to the tournament, right? I was just thinking about that, right? Like half of our team quit, so I was worried about that, and I was also worried about like they're big, scary men. They're from varsity. What do I do? I shouldn't have been thinking like that, to be honest with you. Just like how my coach said early, like halfway through the season, it's all about mentality. It's all about what you think about the situation. Um, it's all about your mental strength and your physical strength as well. But it's the main part is your mentality, right? So, anyways, the third tournament rolls around, right? I believe this was, I think, Carruthers. I can't remember. I don't know if it was Carruthers or not. But anyways, third tournament, right? And we get there, and late at night, by the way, and we're there super early, right? There was like only like 4 teams ahead of us that also got there super early. But anyways, we get there super early. We unpacking everything, and the first thing we do, we weigh in, right? Because we have no time to practice. We can't practice before weighing ins. That's one of the rules there. For wrestling. Um, when you get there, you can't lose weight. You can't cut weight since it's already the tournament day. So there's no point in losing weight when you already know you're gonna be overweight. So as soon as we got there, we just unpacked and waited. We didn't drink any water. We couldn't eat anything at all. So we just waited for a good hour until we weighed in. And and this is the funny part. One of my one of my friends now, right, of whom I didn't know of until like halfway through the season, he was overweight by 2 pounds, and my coaches were like, "Oh crap, he's overweight." And we kind of needed him, even though he was like a first year, because we had to have, I think, like I forgot what it was, but it was like a number of people we're supposed to have just to be there. And if we didn't have him, we were gonna get kicked out or something like that. But anyways, he was overweight, and we're like, "Oh crap, he's overweight." And then the coaches were like, "What were you thinking? What did you eat?" And then the guy was like, my friend was like, I don't know, it was like, "Oh crap, I thought the scale said that I was like under by 3 pounds. I only had a water, coach." And turns out our scale was off by like 2 pounds. Like, oh my goodness, that scale was lying. And the coaches they were scared out of their minds. I'm not gonna lie to you. They were super scared, right? Because we weren't gonna have a member. So one of our coaches had to go negotiate with the weigh-in person, and other main coach came the supervisor, right? So we had to bump him up a weight class, a whole weight class. He had to go up against heavyweights, and that wasn't even his weight class. He was like the 215s, but then since he was like 2 pounds over or something like that, he had to get bumped up to the heavyweights, and he was like terrified, right? But anyways, he's like, guys, coach told me that I have to go against heavyweight because I was off by 2 pounds. And I just looked at him dead in the eyes, and I was like, dude, are you serious right now? Are you being for real? And then he just responded to me saying, it wasn't my fault. The scale was off by 2 pounds. I just looked at him in disbelief, and I was like, dude, that's your fault. You didn't you didn't double check, because that was the thing. We were supposed to double check before leaving, but he only checked once, and he was like, "Oh, okay, that's it," and he just put his weight down. So that could have all been avoided if he just checked twice or even more. But anyways, so after that, right, we eat and whatever, and hold and behold, my match was first. And I was like, I was thinking, you're joking, right? I barely got to eat anything, right? I only had like one burrito and half a water bottle, and then my bout came up, and I was like, oh, you gotta be joking, right? You gotta be joking. And it turns out the reason why is because we were going by weight categories, and they skipped the the really lightweights, like one of my friends who weighs around like 116. They skipped him completely. They went to the 120s and 126. And so I was up first, right? I mean, I had to go against another person, right? In front of all of my um comrades. I was super nervous because how here's how it was. Basically, right, this is like this cross right here. This is where the whole tournament would take place. So just imagine this, 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 and this, right? These four squares right there. Those were the stadiums, and in the middle of the stadium was just like a huge match, right? Huge separate match, 7 match total, and you had to wrestle in front of everybody, and I was super nervous, right? So then I was like, okay, I was at a loss of words, right? So that time came, of course. I tried to get myself mentally prepared, but it didn't work as much. And since I wasn't mentally prepared or physically prepared, I lost terribly, right? I got teched, and it was one heck of a day, right? One heck of a day. I'm gonna go on break right now because I need some water. Okay, guys, I'm back. Okay, guys, I'm back. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Okay, anyways, like I was saying, right? So I was trying to get myself mentally prepared, right? But it didn't work that much. Um, I deeply regret it because I think if I could have mentally prepared myself at the time, I could have won one of my matches because the guy necessarily that I was facing, right? He wasn't really good himself. The only advantage he had was his height, right? So I thought, hey, I'm gonna take advantage of that. I'm gonna go for a single leg or something like that. But since I wasn't mentally prepared, I was really scared to take a shot. And my coaches were like, Matthew, take a shot. Matthew, take a shot. Matthew, take a shot. But I was just frozen. I was frozen out of fear, right? So that didn't help very much. And I ended up losing because he decided to take the shot first instead of me taking the shot. And my coaches were mad. So obviously the punishment for that was um I had to run 10 laps, and then after that I had to report back, and it was just super embarrassing, right? And after I did that, I was super tired and everything, and I just did not feel like wrestling. But my teammates encouraged me. They were like saying it happens to the best of us. Most of us get scared and everything. So I was like, all right, so I'm gonna continue, right? Second match, I also lost, but I did put up a good fight. I kept on shooting, or I shot a couple times, like two shots, and then I made it to the second round. I was bottom, he was top, obviously because he got the pick, and I lost it from there because he hit me with a fat man roll and got me in the pin. Um, for today, I think I'm gonna stop the live right here and continue it Wednesday or Thursday. No, what? I'm a live stream every Thursday, possibly depending on the day, or I'm gonna just live stream depending on the day. But I'll talk more about it um next live stream. And until then, goodbye.